Okay guys, we ended the last video on a bit of a cliffhanger. I was in the hospital, I was no longer pregnant, and we went through the details of our 6th IUD. So before we dig into this one, I should tell you that I have a very healthy, thriving 9-month-old. He's doing amazing.
Guess what? Who's in here, Mommy?
So let's bring it back to the birth story. I think I'm going to do one video that just explains sort of our birth story, and then I'll do another one that sort of talks through our NICU experience, and then I might include the rest of our lab work beyond that, or I might do a third video on that. So getting into our birth story, I went in on Monday, December 4th, 2023 for our regular Monday MCA scan, non-stress test, and my like OB checkup. So all of that happened every week. So I went on Monday for that, and I had gained 6 pounds in 1 week. I was extremely bloated. I had fluid buildup everywhere. I was extremely uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, I was so uncomfortable. And you can tell, like from that last video when I was in the hospital, my face is like 5 times the size, and I was very uncomfortable. And so anyways, my blood pressure had like all of a sudden jumped up really high, which has never happened ever in my life. So my blood sugar was out of whack. Lenny's, like non-stress test, like his heart rate was kind of being weird. The MCA result scans were being a little bit wonky, like some were higher, some were lower. You couldn't really tell where he was going to be at, which is pretty typical for 35 weeks. So there just wasn't a really great answer for like, are we fine? Are we not fine? Both of us were like not looking super ideal. And so, after, you know, going through everything, the doctor came in, and the doctor who was treating me as like a maternal, like my OB checks or whatever, she came in, she was like, okay, so with everything considered, I just talked to Dr. Snowwise, and we're going to admit you today. We want to keep an eye on you. And I was like, okay, got it. And she was like, you're taking this surprisingly well. And I was like, well, actually, all night last night I had labor and delivery dreams, and I called my mom on the way here, and all night last night she had labor and delivery dreams. So I actually have my hospital bag in the van already. And she was like, stop. And I was like, yeah, like I knew I was not leaving the hospital that day. So they check us in Monday, December 4th, and they just want to keep an eye. They kept the non-stress test going on him so they could keep an eye on his heart rate. And then they had like my blood pressure being checked constantly, did a few more rounds of blood work to make sure that I wasn't getting preeclampsia, which, you know, praise God, we never got to any sort of preeclampsia. We were just like hypertension. But I was still very uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how uncomfortable I was. My ankles were huge, like you saw it in my face. My face was huge. My hands were like gigantic. So anyways, stayed in the hospital the rest of the night, Monday, all day Tuesday, and then we rescanned Lenny on Wednesday morning to see if he was getting back to normal. And unfortunately, his scans were still all over the place. My blood pressure was sort of fine, but still high. He was all over. And then also like my amniotic fluid was bigger, like it was growing, which is odd. That's not normal. And so, Dr. Snowwise, he still was like, he does not like to deliver before 37 weeks because of all of the bilirubin issues and everything else that can come with that. So he had actually consulted his mentor to like run through our case and make sure that delivering that day was the right decision. I mean, they did not take that choice lightly, which I so appreciate, because the journey after this was very hard. So I know that they didn't just decide to do that because they felt like it was an easy out. Like, that was a very hard decision for him to make, delivering me at 35 weeks and 2 days. So we did decide to go forward with the C-section. Once that decision was made, I was just like very excited because I had no idea what was going to come next. And I knew that I was so uncomfortable and that this baby needed to come out. Like, my body was done. It was like, we have made it as far as we're gonna go. Like, we're over this, is how I felt every cell of my body was acting. And so then, of course, we're like all excited. We're like gonna have a baby that day. And then, like, all of a sudden, there's just like emergency C-section after emergency C-section after emergency C-section. We kept getting pushed back. So finally, it was, I can't remember his exact birth time. I should really know that. Like one something in the afternoon. He was officially born December 6th, 2023. Every single doctor and nurse in that room was so aware of my mental state because we had to have a C-section mostly due to his positioning. He was sideways, which is the exact position that Annabelle was in, which is why we had to have a C-section with Annabelle. And if anybody knows my birth story with Annabelle, she broke her leg on the way out of the C-section because of her positioning. And he was in almost the exact same position. So like everyone in that room knew, like, do not break his leg. Like, we are not dealing with that on top of everything else. I was very anxious about it. Like, everyone was just very aware. Go slower, cut me wider. I don't care. Like, don't break his leg. So yeah, everyone was very like aware, and they like told me like that is not going to happen. We're going to do everything possible. And so, yeah, he was born. He was literally perfect. He was 6 pounds and 14 ounces for being born at 35 weeks and 2 days. So he was like ready to go. He was already cute. He was already chubby, which was the best thing ever. And, unfortunately they did have to take him right away. So that is something that I'm still working through, is that neither of my babies were like handed to me. They both had like very extreme, very weird medical things happen that caused them to go straight to the NICU or straight to receiving care. For him, he needed to immediately be under phototherapy for high bilirubin. And he had to have the CPAP on right away to help with breathing since he was a little premature. He needed a little bit of help with that. So I got to reach out my hand and just hold his little face for like a second before they took him. And it was so hard. Like, I still cry when I see like the beautiful videos of women giving birth and their baby being placed on their chest. It just like, I'm happy for them, and I'm sad for me. Like, it just crushes me that I did not get to have that either time. But I do know that like he needed that care. Like, he really needed to be in the proper care and receiving treatment right away. So that is pretty much the birth story. The next couple of days and everything that happened next was pretty wild, and then we ended up being in the NICU for 37 total days. And so I will get into what happened after birth and our NICU stay in the next video. But you should all know that he is very healthy, he is very happy, he is so smiley, and he is, dare I say, the cutest baby in the entire world. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.